conquista tutto. L'amore conquista tutto.
Hey there, everyone, and welcome to episode 57 of the Unfiltered and Undiscovered podcast. It has been a big week, so we're going to get straight into it. As always, I've got my co-host, Tave Bragg, down there from Adelaide. We've got Bragg here, and we've also got, let's welcome our guest first up. So this guy, can I tell you, during that transformative years of Australian rock, he was a road manager, stage manager, production manager, tour manager for the likes of Screaming Tribesmen, the Hitmen, Lime Spiders, Kings of the Sun, Psychotic Turnbuckles, the Johnnies. He helped out with international supports like the Damned, the Cult. My God, I'm so excited. We've got Peter Rossy Ross with us. How are you, Rossy?
Really good to be here, fellas. Really good to be here. Yeah. Lovely to talk to my Queensland friends.
So you're originally a Queenslander?
No, I'm a Sydney boy, but I've got a lot of Queensland friends up there, I tell you. Spent so much time up there, I thought I'd live there for a while.
Well, there's worse places to be. So Braggy's actually a Queenslander,
yes, fundamentally
from far north Queensland. And I was born in New South Wales, but moved to Queensland when I was 8. So I'm a Queenslander. So
what about state of origin, Curly? I didn't realise you were born in New South Wales. That's your state of origin.
I tell you what, my dad was a rugby league ref, and when we got to Queensland, and we lived in this little bedroom, this little house on the Maroochy River.
Yeah.
And we'd sit there in the sunroom listening to the interstate games in those days. This was before state of origin.
Yep.
And Dad was cheering for Queensland. And I said, oh, okay. He said, well, we're living here now, mate. We're Queenslanders. So I said, okay. So that's always stuck with me. If it was good for my dad.
Fair enough.
Born in Windsor and Sydney and spent all his life in New South Wales until we moved. Hey, look, we've had a big week of news. Let's first talk about Taylor Hawkins, mate. Rest in peace.
That was just a shock out of the blue, wasn't it? You know, I went back and watched him because, you know, he started with, Alanis Morissette, was the first big act he played with. And if you go on YouTube, there's a great clip of Alanis Morissette on the Letterman show. And man, have you seen that one, Pete?
Yeah.
He's so solid behind them drums.
He was a freak. He was a force of nature.
Yes.
And a positive force of nature from all reports, what a great player. It just shocked everyone. I've got a couple of young blokes who both play drums as well as a lot of other instruments, but both of them are really big Foo Fighters fans and are just devastated. Still processing it, I think. A lot of people are.
Yeah, he really attacked them, didn't he? He really attacked the drums.
We kind of feel like we all know them because they spent so much time out here.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And poor old Dave, that's the second band. What's he going to do now? I mean,
they've cancelled the tour, haven't they? They were coming to Australia, so they've cancelled.
Do you think bands talk about like I know with the Stones are so old, they surely would have had conversations with each other. You know, if I go, you guys keep going. You know, I really like this guy, get him in. You know, but I guess Foo Fighters are much younger. Maybe they,
I don't think they would have thought of that.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think anyone saw that coming. I think they'd be devastated. I'd be surprised. A little bit of me says, I'd be surprised if they kept going.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it'd be hard.
Yeah, I think it will be too. And
yeah, I agree.
It's a strange one for me, Braggy, because I've never been a big Foo Fighters fan. So
okay.
I know their music, and when I hear one of their songs, I know it's the Fooies, but I wasn't as emotionally attached to it. So it's been a weird one because all my mates have been in really emotional states with it. It's really, really, really interesting.
Yeah.
And of course the other big news is last night we had the Shane Warne Memorial, and 1 billion people tuned into that.
That's insane.
What?
Well, we talked Curly and I guess we have this 300 million viewers in India.
Yeah.
And it was a who's who of the rock world as well. You had Elton John, Robbie Williams, Ed Sheeran, freaking what's his name from? I never remember his name. Chris from Coldplay.
Chris Martin.
Chris Martin.
Yeah. Yeah.
Never remember.
Yeah, I'm not a Coldplay fan anyway. But the only reason I remember Chris Martin is because Eddie got it wrong after he came back from a Ray Martin segment, and he called Ray Chris. So when Chris came on in Coldplay, I said, that's why. Because I was trying to figure out why it was the case.
Warne had big star power, though, didn't he?
Oh, yeah. Didn't he? What?
But he must have been just a cool guy to hang with, you know?
I just remember watching him play cricket. They'd toss him the ball very early in his Ashes career. They'd toss him the ball and you just sit up and go, something's going to happen. And it pretty much did. It did all the time.
No,
just go, how does he do that? It was great. Yeah. It was a great era for Australian cricket.
And the other interesting thing is, and I said this to Sharon last night, is that as he got older, he got younger looking and fitter looking. And then all of a sudden dead at 52. I'm still bewildered by it. Now, in other news, the Ritzy kids who were looking forward to doing a live show in Newcastle, and I've forgotten the band that they were going to support, that's been called off apparently because of COVID.
Okay.
So Sean and the boys are devastated, but we'll get a chance to have a chat with Sean next week. Let's hope his internet's a little bit better than what it normally is. So, and the last little bit of news is on Saturday at Platform 5, me and my girl Sharon went to see Mick and Ursula at Platform 5, and mate, can I tell you, it was just such. It is such a good little venue. There would have been maybe 30, 40 people there. Everyone's got their own story. I'm fascinated by human stories. But it was just, and I only stayed for the first set. So Mick said his second set was going to be a little bit rockier. But it was acoustics and keyboards. And I tell you what, Ursula has got a stage presence. She has so much fun out there. And the keyboards, it's really interesting because the keyboards at times float above the music and sort of envelop it. And then at other times it creates this little bit of a pace through the music. So, mate, I just loved it. And played a couple of songs of their upcoming album. So I'm really looking forward to getting it out. So much fun.
Cool.
So much fun.
What a survivor he is.
Yeah, he is. And that's how we met Rossy.
Yes.
Mick was known to us, his nickname was Tenacious Road Beast.
Okay, tell us why.
Nothing could stop him. It didn't matter. You couldn't kill him with an axe. He just kept going and going and going. Like I worked through the band with a lot of different lineups.
Yep.
And look, he may be slight in stature, but for me, we had so much fun, and boy could he rock. The guy's like a Keith Richards guitar player with a blood curdling scream. We toured for like 45 weeks a year for years. Like you had 4 or 5 shows a week for 45 weeks, and we were tired, but we just kept going and going and going.
And Tenacious Road Beast.
Tenacious Road Beast.
He had other nicknames, but I won't go into those.
I will push for them.
But that's the enigma, Rossy, I think, with Mick as well. He's such a softly spoken guy when you're talking with him, and then he's got such a powerful voice on stage, and it's just incredible. Ursula tagged me in a Chris Mazurek video just before where he's doing Date with a Vampire. Yeah. And Braggy, when you described Date with a Vampire and you've got the Screaming Banshee guitar coming in in that second segment, it really stuck out with the Mazurek version. I spent a lot of time with Chris as guitar tech. I still do stuff. I think we might be getting Chris out to Australia in December. But, that'll be cool. He's in Spain at the moment, isn't he?
He lives in Spain where he's got a family over there, but we're talking with his management at the I-94 bar with Craig Barman, and looks like we'll be getting Chris over, which would be great. I've seen Chris do Date with a Vampire because it was always the showstopper at the end of the set, and I would see it from anywhere from like 3 feet to 15 feet away and watch him play it every night, and it was the same. He was impeccable. Yeah. The bloke was just flawless and taught me how to be a professional, I reckon. He had very high standards. Very
All right.
high standards for everyone,
talking
including
about-
himself.
Talking about professional then, you shared a little bit of information about a band that you're playing with currently. So if I've done my research okay,
Yeah,
we're going to listen to a little bit of Jupiter 5.
that's
Now, you didn't know this was happening. Apologise to you for that surprise. So who's in Jupiter 5? There's some familiar-looking faces there.
Yeah.
Well, the guitar player on my side, that's a sneaky rehearsal room shot that my young fella shot on a video camera. And that's his brother drumming, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's one of our boys drumming. And
Beautiful.
James and Angus shot that one. So Vince Cascuna, who's on my left-hand side, he's been in a number of bands. I worked with him in Buffalo Revisited. He's played in the Hitmen.
Yeah.
He's played in the Conspirators. He's played in the Psychotic Turnbuckles.
That's a great name. I don't know that band, but that's a great name.
60s garage band from the 80s. They've been
Okay.
around. They've been playing for years. They're doing a show later this year. And
Yeah, I think
then-
they're coming up to Queensland too.
I believe
the
I'm coming up with them,
Psychotic
actually.
Turnbuckles.
Yeah, I believe it's Punk Fest they're coming up for.
Yeah.
That's right. And the other guitar player played with Vince in the Conspirators, which is Angelo Antidormi, and the singer is Jay Uni, who has played in Thurston Howlers and the Conspirators as well, and he's played in so many bands I can't even begin to think. But those guys, I've known them since the 80s, I guess. So we're just hanging around doing nothing one night, and Vince said, "Why don't we have a play?" So they came over here, I've got a little studio here, and they came over, and we had a whack, and we played around for a while, and then all of a sudden we found ourselves doing gigs. The next thing we know, we've got a single out. So it's been good fun. Yeah. Really good fun.
And it's a vinyl. It's a 7-inch.
Got a 7-inch
single.
vinyl.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We'll have to get
cool
hold of
is
one
that?
of those.
Huh?
We'll have to get hold of one of those.
Yeah.
Well, I'll hook you up, no problem at all. We've got a full-length album coming later this year, I think.
Oh, that's excellent. Now, Braggy, just Psychotic Turnbuckles, if you sort of take a little bit of 60s psychedelic garage sort of music and team it up with rock and roll wrestling, that's the Psychotic Turnbuckles.
Okay.
Mate. So
That's cool.
The lead singer, oh my God, my memory's
Jesse the Intruder.
That's it, Jesse the Intruder. So just, they were fun.
are-
Look them up, look them up.
Oh, yeah. We used to do these big rock and roll wrestling shows with the Australian wrestlers like Steve the Crusher Rackman and all those guys would come down and we'd have a wrestling ring. We did Paddington Town Hall, which was a really famous spot where Radio Birdman and the Saints played.
Mario Milano?
No, Mario was a bit older. I was actually at Mario's induction into the Australian Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Wow. I remember that as a kid. Mario Milano, Killer Carl Kowalski,
Brute Bernard.
That's the ones I remember.
Yeah, we're all big wrestling heads. But, the Turnbuckles would play and then the wrestlers would have a bout. And sometimes at one stage, a couple of Turnbuckles would be their managers and turn it on in the ring themselves. It was hilarious. Hilarious. Did it at Selena's in Sydney as well, Coogee Bay Hotel, with the Johnnies and the Star Club, this Japanese punk band. It was madness.
I can imagine.
Hey,
Now,
I wanted to ask
we-
a question.
Yeah, you're right.
Because we kind of talk over social media that we're going to have a roadie on, right? And so I thought for all the people that listen to the show that aren't really musos, and the term roadie covers, it's like a umbrella for so many people. So, right from the guy who was loading the truck right through to the front of house guy. So maybe, Pete, if you could talk us through all the, just quickly, all the different people that are in a road crew that are so important to keep the band going.
Well, essentially, in the glory days of pub rock, which is where I came from,
Yep.
you always had a front of house guy who's the sound mixer in the main room.
Yep.
And like I worked with some really great guys like Jeff Stewart or Peter Ward or Richard Ball, or these guys who are like absolute guns. And they've got to be musicians and have a great ear as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they can make a band, they can make or break an act. Lighting guys who often sit out with the front of house guy, and I've seen some lighting guys. They work so hard because in those days we used to put in like 60 or 70 lamps and hang them in a room, and all these bands in the pub rock days, we used to carry like a semi-trailer or an 8-ton truck and loaded to the gills. Then backstage you'd have like a stage guy, which I did a lot of, which is a guitar tech, but I also did monitors, which is the fallback, the speakers pointing at the band. But I was lucky. When I was touring with Mick, a lot of the time I had a drum tech as well, which is a woman called Alison Manders, and Alison would do drums because she knows how much I hated touching them.
Right.
And then she'd go and do the door.
That's a whole art in itself, isn't it?
She'd set the drums up of the day, then the band would come and think I'd done it, then she'd go out and and then she'd go and check the guest list at the front and make sure that we got paid right. And then she'd come and put the drums back in the truck later in the night, and it was great.
Oh,
we had a really good
cool.
relationship.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So front of house is like the mixing desk.
Yep.
And back of house is
the band,
behind
what
the
the band
scenes.
hears. The band, I'd mix the vocals for the band. They have a different mix, and then I'd look after the guitars and the guitar amps and tune guitars, swap strings out. But also, I was like, in a way, you're kind of almost like a rock and roll butler in that stage. Whatever the band's needs are as a stage roadie, you kind of, your job is to prepare them for stage. And so from the moment they arrive, say an hour before performance, you take them into the dressing room and you make sure they know where everything is, who's what is, where the drinks are, here's your set lists, here's your picks, there's this, they ask questions, you show them where the bathroom is. It's like everything I learned about being a stage guy, still be in good stead to be a parent.
Yeah, and in those days, I guess, too, like work health and safety, there would have been none of that. I mean, there probably still isn't much of it, but I just remember getting early to some concert, seeing those guys, I think you call them the trogs, the lighting guys, right up. No,
in the roof.
Just, in the roof, and those 1,000-watt, lamps and
One of my favourite lighting guys did a lot of work with bands like John English and stuff like that. There was a guy called Steve Wright, and he was about 6'3", really tall.
Yeah.
Whenever he'd be up the ladder, sometimes we'd just grab his tracky pants and dack him. He'd be holding lights above his head, and you'd dack him. But you'd only do it once and run.
And you guys will be the first ones there and the last ones to leave.
Yeah.
Back to the hotel, have a couple of hours sleep, or drive. You just never know. Yeah. We used to do the old overnighters where it's like you'd finish, say, the Central Club in Richmond in Melbourne at 3 o'clock on a Saturday night, drive, and do St George Budapest Soccer Club in Sydney and load in at 2 o'clock the next afternoon.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah.
I was thinking today, Peter, that once the roadies, so I'm purely a punter. I don't play. I've never done anything outside of talk about music. But once the roadies had left the stage, that was this time for the audience to realise that the band was coming on soon,
Yeah.
And that soon could have been 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, depending on which sort of a band. But then, so the punter's getting ready to enjoy it. And then I was thinking about your role, and you were probably having a bit of a downtime, ready to get back to work as that butler for the guys on stage.
That 10 minutes before the show and the first 10 minutes of the show were always my favourite.
Yeah.
Just because you're focusing, you're doing your final checks. You check and you check and you check again.
Yeah.
You make sure everything where it is. Because when it doesn't work when they walk on stage, you look bad. You make the guys you work for look bad. You don't want that. Yeah. The other thing is we used to like playing with the audience with the torch, Like, it'd be dark. The backing track would be going. You'd hit the torch and the crowd would go, whoa! And you just go, oh, you're too easy. And go back outside for a while.
And I guess you get some of the performers, like you get some of the lead singers that really, you got to run on. the mic's coming off or whatever. They're really rough on the gear, or even some of the guitarists, I guess. So you always remember, Tony, you'd remember if you go into gigs watching the roadie come in from the side and fix something up quick, or, you know.
Yeah. I hate it when they go over the barricade. When they jump off the stage, you can go out in the audience, and you're trailing with the mic lead, and you're just like, here we go. There's one in particular I work with a lot who used to do it, and every time I'd see him head towards the barricade, I'd roll my eyes and go, here we go again.
Yeah. I used to always be amazed by all the plectrums down the
mic stand.
Yeah. Flick them out to the audience, and then it's
when I did a bunch of shows, and I actually saw Cheap Trick last week, and that's his thing. Like Rick Nelson from Cheap Trick.
Yeah.
He puts about 150 mics on his stand. He flicks them all night, grabs handfuls.
Yeah.
And we were lucky. I was working for a band called the Candy Harlots, who are like this hard rock metal band, and we toured opening for Cheap Trick. And you'd open anything. You'd open a suitcase, there'd be like 200 picks inside it, just sitting on the bottom, guitar case, everything. For that whole run of shows, everything you found just had picks in it. He'd be throwing them everywhere. It was great.
But Rick, he's got like freaking 200 guitars as well, doesn't he?
He does. The guitar tech who was doing them had been doing them for years and years and years. And he's saying to me, it's a little bit of a holiday over here at the moment. We're only carrying 30 guitars. In the States, we carry 40. So he was swapping a guitar a song.
Yeah.
So like I liked him. He's a really cool guy. So I was helping him. I was getting to play Rick's guitars, giving them to him. He'd go swap it. He'd give me one back. I'd put it in a case. But then I'm watching this guy work, and I'm thinking, geez, this guy's the hardest working bloke I've ever seen in my life. Then I realised this guy is playing keyboards and doing backing vocals as well.
Oh, truly?
During like Dream Police has got that do 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 do. He's doing that. And I'm like.
Wow.
How much money, whatever they're paying you, mate, you're not getting it. It's not enough.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So Pete, let's talk about some of these bands that you toured with. You know, there's some huge names here, you know. Psychotic Turnbuckles, the Johnnies, apparently Mick said they could drink a bit, so I'm presuming that there were some parties with the Johnnies.
They are Australia's drunkest band. They are. And there was a period of time during the 80s where they actually carried a bar fridge and just put it on stage with them.
Oh, truly?
So the drink rider went in the bar fridge.
Yeah.
And Hoodie or Slim or even Spencer, rest his soul, go, bartender, get me a beer. They'd open it and boom. They just drank. I've never seen... They still go pretty hard. I did some shows with them a couple of weeks back. They still go very, very hard.
Yeah.
But they're lovely fellas. Good fun.
Yeah.
Too much fun. They have too much fun. And I just go, guys, you can't do this forever. I'm like, we'll give it a shot.
Yeah, they're having a good crack at it. I saw the Johnnies when they played the Love-In up here in Brizzy back in the 80s sometime, and it's like this dingy little bar in the valley.
I've done the Love-In.
Yeah, the stage is at the same level as the audience, and it was just so much fun. The Johnnies were awesome. So
my mate Johnny Pearce was the promoter there.
Yeah.
And it was his room. And we did it with the Turnbuckles. We did it with the Flaming Groupies played there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and John's got some great stories about that. He tells me, and I'm like, but yeah. Queensland pre-Fitzgerald Commission was an entirely different place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we used to do the Roxy, which was very much in the heart of the Fitzgerald Commission.
Yeah. I remember seeing the Cramps at the Roxy, and so many people say what a great gig it was, and it's one of those gigs that I really don't fondly remember.
Really?
But after the gig, everyone was outside, and the dressing shed sort of backed in, or the dressing room inside sort of backed onto a laneway.
Yes.
And you could hear, is it Lux? The
Lux Interior.
Yeah. And he was just going off. He was on some drug-induced bender, and it was really quite sad to hear. But so many people say what a great gig that was, and it was okay. But I've seen better. So
the Roxy would be just about my favourite venue in Brisbane. It was like what we do with the Tribesmen, and because Mick was from the Valley, all these schoolmates had come in, and like it'd be shut the doors, and it'd be people hanging off the rafters, and it was sweaty, and the band always loved playing there too. You know, they loved the Roxy.
Demolished about 3 weeks ago.
It was. I saw that. I was a little bit like. I think I was up doing some shows with someone at the Step Inn not long, like a few years back before they closed that. We walked past the Roxy, and it was some sort of doof nightclub, and a little bit of me died.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about some of the cities. So off air, you were talking about some of your favourite venues in Adelaide, so we'll start with Adelaide.
Theberton Theatre, we did that. That was the first show we did on the tour when the Cult came over. We did the Electric Tour.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Theberton Theatre, got to say, that night, the Tribesmen knocked the Cult. The Cult had been touring the world and were tired. When they got here, they were tired and they were angry.
Yep.
And they'd just broken in America. Their Electric album had just gone top 10 in America, and they were stuck in places like
Australia.
Newcastle.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
And they weren't happy. They were angry. And so we loved that album. We thought that was the greatest album I've ever heard. At the time, it was like everywhere. It was ubiquitous. So the guys, when you do a support, we had a big preparation. They came on and absolutely nailed it. Like the place was going through they were going nuts. And Billy Duffy sent me out a message saying he wants to meet Chris and talk to Chris about guitars and how he gets his guitar sound and all this sort of stuff.
Wow.
But their crew were really bitter and angry, and they made our life hell.
Wow,
so
okay.
we just,
That's no good.
everyone had that same experience.
Yeah, so Mick Blood, when we first interviewed him, he talked about the crew, the Cult.
Yeah.
And has a full chapter in his upcoming book, so as he kept reminding us.
He's always got a product to sell. That's good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I made a comment to Braggy that when you're in that sort of a situation, main support band, and there's animosity, the support band, do they go out of their way to be so much better than the main headliner, or do they blow them off the stage?
Yeah, you do. Sometimes, it's funny. Some bands don't like each other much.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes a band that hates each other drives on resentment, and it's fantastic to watch. It's not good
so
to be
both
around,
going
but
at
it's
it.
fantastic to watch, you know? When you don't like the headliner, you do, they do like to, give it a little bit. But then again, that's such a rare occurrence. It really is.
Yeah.
Most of the times, bands and crew all just get on fabulously, really.
Yeah, 'cause
it's
they're all
such a
in the
hard
same
job. We don't need to
Exactly.
make it any harder.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'd agree.
When you're doing a support to someone and you turn up and the crew are your mates and the band are your mates, you just go, you beauty, it's like not even going to work, you know?
We talked about the Johnnies who partied hard. I want to know about someone else who partied hard, and that's Joe Walsh.
Joe Walsh, yeah, Joe. I was doing guitars for Joe. He was out here, Jackson Guitars brought him out here. There was a Rebel Yell Australian Guitar Challenge, and we did a whole bunch of shows with Joe, and then we did the final of the Rebel Yell Guitar Challenge, which was went live on MTV. I've got footage of it around somewhere. And Joe was lovely, but he brought Jeff Skunk Baxter from the Doobie Brothers with him. You know, the guy said,
I know. And Steely Dan he played with too, didn't he?
Yeah. And Skunk's got a brain the size of the planet, right?
Yeah.
And he's an engineer, and he also worked for the DEA in America, and he's kind of like a bit of a spook.
Oh.
He ended up working in security in America.
Wow.
Jeff Baxter. Yeah.
Okay.
And weird guy, really professional and incredible. But I think he came out to be Joe's minder.
Okay.
So Joe figured out early in the tour that my three fingers like that, if I got a standard pub 7-inch and put vodka up to there,
Your fingers are
and then
fatter.
put orange juice in the top, that was exactly how he liked his vodka and orange. And he just loved it. He wouldn't have a drink. He'd go, Rossy, where are you? And I'd have to measure his drink for him. And he was like, I was touring when the last show we had was with, the tour manager was another fellow who's passed away since called Aaron Chug, and Aaron and Joe came to me and Aaron at the end of the show, and he said, "You guys are the best crew I've ever had," and gave us both a brass Zippo. And said, "Here you go."
Wow.
And we took it to mean that we were the only crew Joe could remember having. But he was a lovely bloke.
Yeah.
Wow, could he play?
Yeah, he's a player.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's cool.
All right, so back to venues. Let's talk about the Sydney venues, which were the best ones.
There were so many of them. Sydney was a rock and roll town.
Yeah.
Like there was the southern side and the northern side had beach pubs, and the beach pubs used to just go off with people stage diving and stuff. I had a soft spot. There was a venue in Sydney. Oh, actually, this is an interesting story. There's a venue in Sydney called the Tivoli. And the Tivoli was like middle of George Street, Sydney CBD, premium. You'd go in, they had one of those big theatre drapes. So you'd set the band up behind the drape and they'd go, ladies and gentlemen, the Screaming Tribesmen, and the drapes would open.
Oh,
and
okay.
it had everything. And it was all stepped, and it was like a nightclub with booths, but it was massive, right? And we were doing the Bones and Flowers album with the Tribesmen, and we're going to do our album launch at the Tivoli. We were pretty excited about it because you don't get to play at the Tivoli for a band, unless you are, massive.
Yeah.
So about 3 or 4 days before the gig, we got a phone call from this guy. He goes, "Hi, I'm from Jan's, which is Jan's was the big production company in Sydney." He goes, "Look, we've got a favour to ask." We're going, "Okay." And so I'm in a hotel room with Jeff, Stewart, and Steve Wright, our lighting guy, and this guy says, "Okay, David Bowie's coming into town and he's doing his Glass Spider tour. So he's doing a press conference the day after in the Tivoli. And what David likes to do is to do a performance for his press conference. So would it be okay if, I know you've got a big show, if we came in the day before, we brought in David's production, we set it up for you the way you want it, and you guys could do your show, and then we could just reset it for David the next day."
Wow.
So I just put the phone down and gone, "What do you reckon, guys?" We're going, oh, we like our stuff. Oh, okay. You mean we don't have to carry anything?
Yeah,
okay.
have to carry it, and you get David Bowie's gear.
So we got in there and they had like the A-list of Australian road crew working for us, going, "I'll just put that over there, We're like, we're embarrassed because these guys are that good. And it was massive. Like, I remember mixing the support band on it, who were a band from Brisbane called Voodoo Lust.
Yeah, all right. Sorry, one of my
I love the
favourites.
Voodoos.
Yeah.
I love them. Gary Slater,
Yeah.
Tony
Hound
Harper,
Dog.
fantastic. Hound Dog Harper, I love them. I mixed them hundreds of times. I love them dearly. So I felt like I was mixing the biggest pair of headphones I'd ever heard in my life that night.
Yeah.
Voodoo's killed it too. They were such a good band.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
Tell me about the Trade Union Club. I've never had the opportunity to go there, and I've heard so many stories about it.
The Sydney Trade Union Club I started going there when I was a kid before I was working full time.
Yeah.
I remember going there in 81, 82, seeing like the Birthday Party and the Laughing Clowns and all those sort of bands. And it just didn't, like, it was like another planet for a boy from the suburbs, gotta say.
Yeah.
Like it really was. It was like this whole other world. And at its heyday, they would have bands on 3 floors every night, on Friday and Saturday night, and it was absolutely it was an education. I did so many bands there, like massive amounts of bands, and it was the centre of culture in Sydney. It really was. Like to see the Birthday Party in their prime with Tracy Pugh, and like it was like, I remember being a little bit intimidated and just a little bit frightened by them because they were so dark and intimidating.
Yeah.
But it was RSL Club chic, like, but down at the heel. Like the club was gone. It was going out the back door until some young promoters came in, and they started putting on punk shows, and it just started blowing up, and it was intense, and it was a phenomenal place to go and see bands. You would see, John Cooper Clarke or the Hoodoo. I remember doing a Hoodoo Gurus show I was working for a band that did the first Live at the Wireless album, which was. And the Hoodoo Gurus headlined the Christmas show, and like, it was like, wow, what are we doing here?
Wow, that's cool. Bands on 3 floors. I mean, where's those days gone?
Yeah.
There was another one in Melbourne called The Venue that used to do that as well, like down Earl's Court, down near the Palais, down at the beach at St Kilda, and that was great too. Those days, like the bands everywhere.
Yeah. We were certainly spoiled for choice, and nowadays it's such a completely different marketplace.
It was. Well, I recall going to in the pub scene, seeing bands like the Romantics or XTC or Echo and the Bunnymen. At my local pub in Bexley North, I saw The Cure.
Yeah, wow.
It was a three-piece doing 10:15 on a Saturday night in a forest, killing an Arab. And it was chocker. Like, you couldn't swing a cat.
Yeah.
All those sort of bands were coming out and playing the pubs, and it toughened all those bands up.
Yeah.
That was the thing. That all those bands from Australia that did that would go overseas and brain them because...
They were hard ass working in Aussie pubs and,
Angus Young said that he learnt to run around stage because he knew that they were lighting him up with a schooner glass.
Well, my brother went to uni in Melbourne. He's older than me, and he remembers going to see AC/DC at the front bar. And he said the pub was so small that during the break, Angus would walk off or sit at the bar and have his orange juice or whatever he was having, and he'd have the curly lead and it was still plugged into his amp on the stage. That's how small the fucking pub was.
Those guys were freaks in that every country they went to around the world thinks they're almost a local band because they came in at the absolute entry level in every country they went to and worked their way up, and everyone just loves them.
Just hard working,
hard working rock and roll band, you know.
And they got that from the Easy Beats because they were the guys that invented the whole freaking Aussie thing, didn't they?
Harry and George came back and said, "We won't," because they got stuck in England, right? They lost their money and they couldn't get back home. So Harry and George, when they came back, said, "My brother's band, we'll show them how to do this." And so they didn't sell their rights; they licensed their stuff.
Yeah,
and they are worth $50 million every year without getting out of bed. Gotta love that.
You gotta love it.
Living the dream, you know.
Yeah, it'd be nice. What's your most favourite or most treasured memory from touring?
You know, it's funny. I've done lots and lots of different things. You know, like there's lots and lots of. There's probably two that I love almost as much as each other. One, of course, I've got so many Tribesmen memories that I get sick of talking about them. But we in 2012 we got the band back together and we went over and did As Can a Rock in Spain. We're on a bill with the Blue Oyster Cult and Twisted Sister and Ozzy Osbourne and all that sort of stuff. Steel Panther. Yeah. And I remember saying to Barman, who was managing the band, going, "How did we pull this off, mate?" The Tribesmen hit stage, and there were these Spanish kids down the front holding up Date with a Vampire. And I'm like going, I'm pointing to the kid going, "You need to get out more often." But I guess my favourite thing I ever did, and it's weird, is that I was doing this Elvis impersonator. Mm-hmm. And but what made this special is that he'd brought out a drummer called DJ Fontana, who was Elvis's drummer.
The original?
From the original. He played it on Heartbreak Hotel, Hound Dog, Don't Be Cruel, Jailhouse Rock, right?
Yep.
And so I was doing monitors on stage for DJ Fontana.
Wow.
And he was this southern gent. I'd say, "Okay, DJ, what would you like in your fallback?" And he'd just look at me and go, "Turn it off."
Yeah, what's fallback? We never had fallback.
And so like, he's doing Heartbreak Hotel or he's doing Blue Suede Shoes, and I'm going, that's like him. That's him doing that.
Wow.
Yeah, for me.
So how did this like Elvis impersonator get DJ Fontana?
Working musicians, guys.
Yeah,
They're just working musicians, you know. And DJ...
He was shafted anyway, wasn't he, DJ?
Yeah, he was. Well, he played up to the comeback special. Yeah. He's gone after that. But he did the old... They bring him out and do a Q&A with him every night. I felt a bit sad, because all the Obvious fans would be there and they're a different breed. And they're going,
I know that.
Did Elvis buy you a Cadillac? And you go... He was my friend. He didn't have to buy me things, but he did give me one of these rings. I've got one and James Burton's got the other one, and this is who he and Priscilla wore on their wedding day.
Wow.
Okay. They go, "Is Elvis dead?" And he'd go, "I assure you, my friend is no longer with us. I was at his funeral. He's no longer with us." But people believe that stuff.
Yeah,
they think that he's
Yeah, that's cool.
That was, for me, that was the coolest thing I ever did. I still go, wow.
Yeah, I see why.
There's little things you do and you just go, what am I doing here? How did this happen? Like, you just get excited. Because I'm still a fan. I love music like everyone else.
Yeah.
And to think you get paid to do it sometimes, it's like, geez, how lucky is this?
Yeah.
But then there's other nights you go, how did I get here?
What about Pete? What about riders? What's the tell us the most extravagant riders?
Oh, look, Queensland used to deliver. Queensland were the best. You'd go up to Stewart's at Alexandra Headland, or because everyone puts in a rider, right? You have to put in a rider. Yeah, you have to put it in because if you don't ask, you don't get.
Yes.
Right. So our standard rider would be like 4 dozen cans, a bottle of vodka, a bottle of Jack, half a dozen bottles of red, tea and coffee, sandwiches, barbecued chicken, salad, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And sometimes you get it, you just like go.
We got it. And so next time, I guess you got to go. I'll go more.
One night we did a show in the Pier Hotel in Frankston.
Yeah.
And we were a support band, right? We're a support band to the Black Sorrows.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we put they didn't put a rider in, and we got our full rider, right? Here's the rider for the Hitmen, and they brought it in. We've got chicken, sandwiches, drinks, beer, everything. We're like having a little bit of a feast before we go on stage. The band's on. I've gone back to the dressing room. Black Sorrows were in there. They thought it was their dressing room. But yeah, they were very nice people, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm taking it, and once again, without knowing, I'm taking it the rider is what you could request from the venue.
Yes.
It's a contract rider.
Cool.
Gotcha. So it's like, at its bare minimum, it'd be 2 dozen cans and a bottle of spirits.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'd have to fight, but we'd always have a contract signed, and I'd go down there and go,
here's the
nowadays
contract.
they'd go, responsible serving. We did one at Luna Park, and they said, the responsible serving of alcohol provisions of this state says you can't have that.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Well, our contract says we can.
Yeah. When you mentioned Stewart's on the Sunshine Coast, I think it was the Mooloolaba Hotel on the Sunshine Coast. The stage had a beam right at the beginning, very low near the stage.
Yeah.
And was it Doc Neeson that knocked himself out on it? So
it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, and vowed never ever to go there again because it just really made the stage a lot. The roof just come down. So
I love that venue. Those Sunshine Coast venues, the crowds really knew how to have a good time. They really enjoyed themselves, and if you get your feet off the energy of the crowd, and we'd like see a Sunny Coast Sunday night, and you go, "You're beauty," because it's the last night of the week. We'd stay in the Sunshine Coast, so we'd have a little party at the end of the week, and then drive home.
Yeah,
nice.
I can just imagine. So.
Yeah.
Mate, this is now. Last week we had, of course, Blake Katiris on. He mentioned that when we said that you were coming on, he said, "I know Peter." So what's the link there?
Well, Blake's a lovely bloke. Warwick Fraser, who is the drummer in the Screaming Tribesmen, and his brother was actually the guitarist in Noiseworks, Stuart Fraser.
Okay.
And Stuart passed away a couple of years ago. But Warwick's son Marcus is Blake's mate. Marcus Fraser, who's got a really happening rock band in Sydney called Star Crazy.
Okay.
I love.
Okay.
And Blake and Marcus, and would you believe this is the best guitar player's name in the world, and this is his real name, Odin.
Odin.
Odin, the guitar player, and Blake, they were in a band called Killer Peel when they were kids.
Yeah.
And they'd do little shows, and I'd go down and help them out. And we'd we got them on a couple of little things. And then they put out a single, and we did the Sandringham Hotel, the Sando in Sydney. Yeah. And they sold the place out, and there were like all these kids everywhere. And so we decided we're going to treat it like a proper rock show. So they said, "Look, if we pay you, will you come down and treat us like we're a real rock band?" I've gone, absolutely. So Warwick Marcus's dad's turned up with a bubble machine. We've done the full show. Like I'm teching them, I'm leading them out with a torch, plugging in their guitars, and it was ballistic. And I'd known Blake for a few years around then, and he's just such a lovely fella, and he's working so hard.
Yeah,
he plays solo acoustic shows. He's got Molly and the Krells. He does session work, and he's like. Did you ever see David Lee Roth's band? Or, David Lee Roth had a solo band with Steve Vai.
And
Blake plays like Billy. Yeah, he plays like Billy Shan.
Wow.
He's a Billy Shan nut, and he's like music nerd. But all those kids are music nerds, right?
Yeah. But
yeah, Blake's a super talent, But he's a lovely person too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it came
I
across.
love young bands.
Me too.
I do love young bands.
Yeah.
I like to see young bands having a crack.
Me
you know?
too, yeah.
Yeah.
Love it.
And you just get the sense with Blake, like I went and listened to, because one of the songs we played was his solo version of What Went Wrong, which is on Spotify. And so he said, "Oh no, I've done it with Molly and the Krells," and that version is awesome. That version is just an awesome, and just that little hook for the chorus is just outstanding. So, you know,
He's worked really hard
got
on
some
his
talent.
singing. He's worked really hard on his singing. He's playing. He doesn't need to do anything. He's that good.
Yeah. So, Pete, I reckon we're going to have to get you back for another show because we're already at the 3/4 of an hour mark.
Yeah, sure.
Why are you being punished?
But I've also got, like, we did 7 songs that shaped Brisbane recently, so I might hit you up and do 7 songs that shaped Sydney music.
Ah, yes.
Is that a big task for you?
No, not really. Sydney's
cool.
a rock and roll town.
Yeah.
Look, a lot of my Sydney is kind of Detroit-based. It's like Radio Birdman school.
Yeah.
A lot of those Sydney bands have got a little bit of Radio Birdman in them.
Yeah. And I've really got to thank you because you've connected us with a gentleman called Chris Mazurek. And at the moment, we haven't announced the date, but we do have a calendar invite for Chris to come on the show. So
Chris is good talent. He's a really engaging and smart guy. But if you want, I can probably throw you a bunch of questions.
Oh. But you've now gone into producing as well.
I do a little bit. Yeah, I do. I'm currently working on a Gold Coast band called 50 Large. They're interesting. Yeah. We did a Maximum Security album, which was like there was a original punk band from Sydney called the Stookers, who were around in very, like, there's Phil from the Stookers back in the 70s.
Yeah.
And they're still kicking around. So we did a solo album, and it was a jail-themed punk album. It was hilarious. They were great. A couple of old guys, a couple of young guys in the band. It was stunning. I do a little bit of work towards our band. I've got a young son who's playing the Factory Theatre in Sydney this weekend. He's 18. He's got a 15-year-old rhythm section.
Wow.
He's churning out material like you wouldn't believe. He's doing that. They're doing like their 3rd show, but they're pros already, Yeah. I'm just trying to teach them how to be professional.
Yeah, yeah.
It's good fun. I love watching the young kids play, So I get to see 5 bands of kids about 18 on Sunday.
Oh, yeah, that's great. That's cool.
But I'll still Pocket Watch will be my favourite.
So, Braggy, have you got another...
All I've got written down here is just a couple of... We're going back to the roadie thing.
Yeah.
Dave Gilmour was a roadie for Pink Floyd before he joined the band. Mm-hmm. And Lemmy was a roadie for Jimi Hendrix before he started Hawkwind. And then...
That's right.
So sometimes...
Lemmy is the greatest.
Yeah, sometimes you can go from backstage to front stage like that.
There's lots of guys who do that.
Yeah.
There's lots of guys who do straddle both.
Yeah.
Nick Barker from Nick Barker and the Reptiles.
Oh, yeah, good band.
Yeah. But there's lots of guys who dabble in both. Yeah. And got to make a living somehow. And it's hard for musicians these days. It's really hard for them to make a quid.
It is, especially in these times. I want to ask about the Blues Fest. Is that because it's been flooded, Byron Bay? Is it going to go on, or are they going to frickin' miss out 3 years in a row? They're poor bastards.
I don't think Peter Noble's got insurance this year.
Oh, fuck. Ooh.
Yeah. I think it's not looking good, which is terrible, Peter Noble used to bring in, he brought in the Flaming Groovies back in the 80s. He used to bring in Canned Heat.
Yeah.
He brought in the Residents. Do you remember the Residents?
Yes.
Yeah.
They're like this art rock band.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's been promoting for years, and he's built himself up and built himself up and built himself up. But I think he's in trouble.
It's a tragedy because I love that. I love that festival. I've only ever been there once, and I fucking ticked off so many. I think I saw Iggy Pop there, man. You guys were just playing him before,
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah.
So I hope it goes through.
I hope it can, but the weather in New South Wales and I guess all the way up the coast has just been
it's a swamp.
Never seen anything like it.
Yeah,
what else can they throw at us? Musicians are pretty resilient, and luckily, I work in I've got a day job, and I work with all forms of performing artists, and actors are a little less resilient than musicians. Musicians always live on the smell of an oily rag.
Yeah.
You know, every musician I know has never been, got millions of dollars or thousands of dollars, so they know how to pull in their horns and not live large. But something's got to give. It's just not very fair on them at the moment, because we need it. We need it in our lives.
Yeah, we do.
That's bullshit.
We do. I remember the old livid festivals that they used to do back in the 80s up here, and they were just enormous, and they were such a prelude to that sort of genre that, the outdoor festival. And
They died pretty with the kings of that a lot of the time, weren't they?
Mate, I am a died pretty freak. So, but anyway.
Have you seen Joey's Coop? Have you seen Joey's Coop?
No.
That's Brett Myers' band in Sydney. They played. I was talking to a mate of mine who was there sort of on Saturday night, and he said that he thinks they could be the best band in Sydney.
Okay.
Brett Myers' new band, Joey's Coop. They just put a new album out as well.
Okay.
Really, really good band.
We'll have to check it out. We will certainly check it out.
He died pretty, as you know. Ron wrote Igloo with Mick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And funnily enough, with Died Pretty, they were an acquired taste for me. I went to see them more when I was older than what I did when I was, in that 80s, and it was a bit of an acquired taste. But I love them. I can't get enough of them now.
I agree with that entirely. The first time I saw them, I was doing an animal liberation benefit at the Sydney Trade Union Club, and they were People for Ethical Treatment of Animals benefit. Like, could you imagine what sort of crowd you're dealing with there? Right?
Yeah.
And the Died Pretty were the first band on a 7-band bill.
Wow.
So, that's the bottom, starting at the bottom.
Yeah.
And they came on, and I didn't understand what they were doing at all.
Yeah.
I just didn't get it. I just thought, no, and for years I've just gone, not that band. And then all of a sudden they just clicked. Nothing wrong with the rock. Nothing wrong with the rock band. 100 shows isn't going to fix.
Yeah.
True.
But I always thought they were just a bit arty, and there was all this music and layers, and I'm just trying to get a beat happening, and I felt it was really awkward. And then all of a sudden I was listening to the same music, and I'm thinking, geez, this is bloody good.
Well, Chris Walsh, the drummer, is he's stunning, and he was in the 31st with Mick.
Yeah.
Mick Mageau and Chris Walsh. Mick said at 16, Chris Walsh was a pro and they were amateurs.
Yeah.
So, his drumming is pretty... And Brett Myers is a fine guitar player, stunningly good guitar player. And Ronnie writes highly intellectual lyrics,
Yeah, one of the best. We
did a benefit for Spencer Jones in Sydney, and the Died Pretty played. And I hadn't seen him in maybe 15 years, and they blew my mind.
Yeah, they get
Absolutely
better with age.
My mind. They really
Every
do.
time I see him now, I just... it's almost brings tears to my eyes.
It's classy.
Yeah.
They're so classy.
Yeah. So what's on the horizon for you, Rossy?
I'm stage managing my son's band this weekend, which is Pocket Watch, and then Jupiter 5 are finishing off our album, and we've got a bunch of shows. I actually have to go in, would you believe? I actually have to go in for shoulder surgery.
Okay.
So I'll be out for 6 weeks. I've done my shoulder, and I know how I did it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've got to go and have an operation in 10 days' time, and that'll slow me down a bit, but by doing that, it'll speed me up a bit. So I've got Jupiter 5 stuff. There's a whole bunch of Turnbuckles shows coming up. It's all starting to open up again in Sydney. I'm starting to see it just starting to...
Yeah.
There's shows, and I'm kind of enjoying it. There's a whole lot of stuff coming up, so we're just excited about doing it.
Excellent. Sounds positive to me. So just bear with us. Braggy and I do a little segment called our Undiscovered 7 Inches. So who wants to go first? Braggy, is it you or is it me?
Well, I'm linking because it's our 57th show.
Okay, cool.
So I'm linking mine with 57. And so, do either of you know who Simon John Ritchie is?
Yes, I do.
There you go. Don't say. Do you know, Curly?
No idea.
Okay. Simon John Ritchie was in this band, and I'm holding up Sex Pistols.
Yeah.
7-inch. of God Save the Queen. That was Sid Vicious.
Oh, truly?
Yeah,
Okay.
and I've also got this one as well, which I'm pretty happy that I've got. Now, for the people listening, I'm holding up Pretty Vacant.
So you got the 7-inch of Pretty Vacant.
I got the 7-inch of Pretty Vacant. The back's
Wow.
pretty cool as well. And so this came out in 1977 when he was only 20, and he was dead at 21.
That changed my life, those two singles.
Did they?
Yeah.
These
Yeah.
are pretty
yeah.
sought after because they're Australian ones, so all the British guys like to search for the
Yeah.
Australian ones.
I was listening to Rainbow and all heavy metal stuff and Black Sabbath, and then I heard that and just went,
Yeah.
Okay.
Weren't we all, though, eh? At that time, we were all like into the prog rock, and then all of a sudden we went, hang on,
Hang on.
you don't have
Yeah.
to be able to play to make a difference.
I win.
I know. And then, the grunge guys did it all over again.
Yeah,
Yes.
I still reckon those opening bars are Pretty Vacant and still some of the most recognisable and best musical bars or the riff or whatever we call it. I don't know. But it's once you hear that, you know it's coming. So
Makes me happy every time I hear it.
Yes,
yeah,
true.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to have a band that I reckon our special guests will have known. It's a band called the Trilobites.
Yeah.
Now, I've shared another single with these before, Braggy. It was American TV and Legacy of Morons. This is from 5th of May, 1985. And once again, can I just tell you, produced by Chris Mazurek, engineered by Alan Thorne. And they were just the preeminent producers and engineers of any sort of independent music.
Look at that
in
cover.
Sydney.
I grew
For
up
people
in
who are
this-
listening can't see that cover, we've got the Venus de Milo there in a field with cows, and it says
Yeah.
Venus in leather.
Venus in Leather is the single,
That's
and the
awesome.
B-side is called Amphetamine Dream.
I
And available
did-
on YouTube if you really want to listen.
I grew up in the same area as those guys, and
Yeah.
they were originally called the Psychotics, and we're a punk band. And we used to rehearse at the same rehearsal studio when we were all about 17.
Yeah.
And I was in this rock and roll band, kind of rose tattoo, AC/DC. We're looking, look at those seedy little punks.
Yeah.
Look at those weasels. But they're lovely blokes. Mick Dalton, the singer, actually worked on A Current Affair for a long time, and he's actually on Channel 9 News in Sydney.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He's
How things
he's
change.
absolutely legitimate.
Yeah.
There you go.
So, Braggy,
Talent.
I was thinking one of our shows in the future might be we just pull maybe 3 or 4 songs out of our 7 inches that we've showed off and
Yeah.
just play them. Because,
Yeah, I reckon.
Yeah.
Because if we don't do it live, we shouldn't get them shut down, should we?
Yeah. So
Oh, you mean just
YouTube.
play them, not show the video clips?
Oh, no, we'll do the video clips
Yeah, okay,
and
cool.
we'll just run the gauntlet and see what happens. So, as we know, YouTube loves it. So,
Yeah. Why not?
Okay, I'm going to wind this thing up. 57 minutes, and as I said, Rossy, I think we could keep just talking. I reckon there's more stories there for you, so we need to get you back. So,
Yeah, Ross, that was good.
next week we've got Sean Fraser from the Ritzy Kids. Looking forward. What's his new song? Wide Awake.
That's
a little
it.
bit slower than what he's been putting out. So it'll be interesting to see how that's going for him. Make sure you like, subscribe, or wherever you're listening or watching this. Don't forget our socials, YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook. Just look us up. We're having a little bit of fun with each and every one of those platforms. Every song we play on this goes into our playlist on Spotify. So just do a quick search, Unfiltered and Undiscovered. And in the final lyrics for the night, I've changed it. I've got a great Aussie quartet, Canis, Mazurek, Gilbert and Tech, and I don't mind Surfer Girls. Okay, see you all, and we'll catch you all again
Go
next
out
week.
and see a
Thanks
live
again.
band this weekend, people.
Thanks for having me, guys.
No
No
worries.
worries.
It's been awesome, Rossy. Talk soon.
Thanks, Rossi.
Okay.
Qui sta tutto.